Hi, welcome back. I'm Grayson.
I'm Caleb.
I'm Dominic.
And I'm Isaiah, and this is Fireside Friday Nights.
Welcome back to Fireside Friday Nights. So, a few weeks ago, Brett Cooper from the Daily Wire released a video titled, "Fatherlessness is Harming Our Country." In this video, she reacts to a video by Again about the fatherlessness crisis and its impact on our world today. But before we get into it, make sure you like the episode, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter, and wherever you get your podcast, and turn on notifications. So, in this video, she talks about how, she reacts to this guy talking about the impact on the fatherlessness crisis. And I thought, being teenage guys, I mean, we all have present fathers, but this is something that a lot of teenagers deal with, and it's something that is definitely plaguing our world today. So, the first thing I want to do is I just want to play a clip from that video with her comments and his comments just because they're together from her reaction, because I thought they were really good things. So, here, I'll just play that real quick.
Fatherlessness doesn't just impact crime, but how people show up in relationships. And so who better to ask than a divorce lawyer about this?
I think the more normal reason why fathers are minimized, unintentional second-order effects of the boom in divorce, the boom in how much people work, and the impact that has on their available time for their families. Like, it's a lot of things all at once.
And so whether due to divorce or absence, it's clear husbands and fathers have distinct roles and impacts. Mothers with absent or distant husbands are not only at a higher risk of developing antenatal depression, but fatherless children are also at risk.
And none of this is new information. Like, I think we can spend a lot of time, arguing why this is happening, what caused it, looking at, the results. But in looking at the statistics, we know that children from fatherless homes or homes where the fathers were not present, that they are at a disadvantage. That doesn't mean that they, will never have a good life or that things won't work out for them. It just means that, some of the odds are stacked against them. So then on the flip side, if we're just saying that fathers are only supposed to be around to teach us how to, fix our car and change a tire, I think that minimizes their actual role. When if you remove them from the equation, all of this crap happens. Like, obviously, they are very important.
Girls without fathers are 8 times more likely to have teenage pregnancies, while fatherless boys often exhibit aggression, delinquency, and an increased likelihood of committing a crime. And so oftentimes having a father or not can either set you ahead or set you behind. When 1 in 4 American homes are without fathers and Gen Z are turning to digital father figures, are they at least getting the guidance that they need?
So that's the clip I wanted to show, just because that kind of sums up the information about the fatherlessness crisis. And so I guess before we go on, what are your guys' reactions or comments to that?
I think it's definitely a huge problem that needs to be said because Grayson and I have been counselors for about a year, right?
Camp counselors, yeah.
Yeah. And we can see when I was listening to the video, I was like, I definitely can see that because we see some kids, come in, and it's not even this is this is a problem. No, we see it pretty often. Like they say, man, my father's just not around. It's very, very common, and it's very sad to see. So, I
mean, yeah, in doing research for this episode, I saw a article by Fox News, and here's the quote. "This staggering statistic has not only destroyed the nuclear family, but has devastated communities across the nation. For example, 85% of children and teens with behavioral issues come from fatherless homes, and over 70% of adolescent patients in drug and alcohol treatment centers originate from homes without fathers. The success of our nation depends on the 4 central tenets: faith, family, the free market, and education. And a resolution is the first of many measures that champion the spirit of those 4 tenets with the support in which they deserve." End quote for right that part. And then it says, this last part is the one I want to thank them and being so bold for saying. They said, "Lastly, to the God-fearing fathers throughout our nation, we ask that you look beyond your own homes and make intentional efforts to coach, mentor, and support the fatherless children in your own communities.
Actually.
That, at the very least, we owe to ourselves, our children, and our fellow countrymen." I thought that the statistic, I don't know if they said in that video specifically, but 1 in every 4 children in the United States is fatherless. Like, what? I didn't think that was. I thought that had to be fake. I
Right.
was like,
It's definitely like a problem that needs to be said.
Yeah, it's more than any other country.
well, I feel like that's
Like,
just,
why is that happening in our country? Like, people for years have looked to our country like, oh, we're like, right, it's like the American dream, right? Why is it happening in our country where all the dads are leaving? And obviously there are other things that happen, but why is that happening here?
Well, one thing that I don't know, I didn't see much on this, but some of these people who are fatherless, the father of those children might have 2 families that he doesn't live with. Like,
Yeah.
oh, and then the court system gets involved, and then like all this stuff with alimony money and child support, and like that just gets blown. There's a big problem in this country and it needs to be dealt with, and I don't know what the best way to deal with it is. How do you even start to? I don't even know how you start to overcome the like 1 in 4 people is or 1 in 4 children is crazy. I don't even know how to understand that.
Like, there are 4 guys doing the podcast. The average would be that one of us lives without a dad. Like, think
And all of us have fathers.
now
so,
we all have fathers.
Yeah, I
obviously,
think we're
but-
very lucky.
Well,
And
Yeah.
I think it might also be in the area that we live, a lot of people are God-fearing. Like, it's a very peaceful place where all the fathers are involved. Like, in our church, I don't know anybody who doesn't have a father.
1 in 4 people. So that according to the U.S. Census Bureau, so this is fatherhood.org, it says 17.8 million children. That's what that number would be. That's enough to fill New York City and Los Angeles 4 times over.
that's crazy.
That
What?
17.6 or 0.8 million.
What?
This is information by nolongerfatherless.org. Children growing up without a father in the United States has become an epidemic. Here are some troubling statistics about fatherless children in the United States. 85% of youths in prison come from fatherless homes. 71% of high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. 90% of all homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes. Nearly 25 million children live without their father. 60%, or without their biological father, I guess. 60% of youth suicides are from fatherless homes. So all of those are majority.
And when you look at all of those numbers, yes, it's not 100%. It's not going to be like, oh, it's guaranteed, but it's going to be like, so you might argue, oh, they'll probably fight for it and things like that. It's very rare. It's very, very common that these things are going to happen if they don't have a father figure in their homes.
The statistics are strongly stacked against them without a father.
I mean, yeah. Even so, the same nolongerfatherless.org information, they said just with a mentor, not necessarily a father figure, but with a mentor who can guide them and they can go to with questions. Of those numbers before, 55% more likely to go to college, 78% more likely to volunteer regularly, 90% of them are more interested in becoming a mentor themselves, 130% are more likely to hold leadership positions, 46% less likely to use drugs, and 81% more likely to participate in sports or extracurriculars. So
That's wild.
if mentors are there, someone to mentor them and guide them along, show them the right path, it's a huge benefit.
And especially in our modern day with all the things that are kind of out there, to have a good father figure is very important.
And especially as Christians, like we have to say, the Bible, like biblical fathers, especially raising up, okay, having a father there in the first place, okay, good. Now having a Christian father, and then we can relate to that and putting this in place to teach and raise your children. Like Ephesians 6:4 says, fathers, do not exasperate your children, instead bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. So God says, or I guess Paul in this case, says fathers are there to treat or train their children and raise them in the way of knowing the Lord. So even like people who aren't Christian, people who believe in other religions or atheistic, these people are still raising, if the father's present, they're still raising their father, or they're still being a father who hopefully raises their kids and mentors them. And then for these children who aren't, I don't remember I think we said the statistic in our homeschooling video, but like the number of children, so if both parents are Christian or both parents go to church, the children are more likely, I don't remember what the numbers are. If just the mom does, really low. If just the dad does, it's high.
Yeah, so I think it's a really good point that you brought up, that it's really important that the dad and the mom too raise their kids as Christians. Because I was looking into the Brett Cooper video, the comments in that video, and I saw one that said they had an abusive father and that they would rather have a father that was not there than an abusive father. Now, I'm not saying that all Christian fathers are perfect. However, it's pretty likely that if your father is a Christian, he's not going to be abusive and he's going to be better than all the other circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, abuse, that's a whole episode topic in itself that we could go over.
Yeah.
And situations such as abusive ones, if that's especially if that's in a Christian household, these people who are saying they're Christians, say the father's being abusive or the abusive household, they're putting on a mask. They're using Christianity as a mask to say, "Oh, we don't have any problems." Like, that's something that needs to be dealt with. I mean, not necessarily, by the church.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to step in and say, "Hey, either you need to not use Christianity as a mask. Like, you need to address your sin," because that's sin right there.
Yeah.
But it's just such a tough topic to talk about because
Yeah.
of how extreme this crisis has gotten to.
Still, it's crazy. 1 in every 4. Going back to that, how many friends do you have? Like, the likelihood you have 8 friends, 2 of them statistically don't have a dad.
Yeah, and even, let's see, in our school, I don't even know how many we have. Less than 150? Do you know any of them who are fatherless?
There are a few I know, but overall, there's a lot more people with fathers than without. It's a lot more than 1 in 4.
Exactly. No, I'm saying, in our school, so from where we live, the amount of people there, I don't know that many fathers. It's not the majority.
Yeah.
Or it's not the statistic. It's not the 1 in 4 out of the under 150. So I mean, somewhere, all of these people, everyone in the school is, I don't even, I can't comprehend that. It's crazy. 80% of single parent homes are led by single mothers. That was a statistic that I saw. Children from single parent families, so this is single parent, not necessarily male or female, but single parent families are twice as likely to suffer from mental health and behavioral problems. One study said 70% of youth in state-operated facilities were from single parent homes. We already talked about that. Children with actively engaged fathers perform much better in school. Some data shows that they are 33% less likely to repeat a class and 43% more likely to get A's in schools. In a study of 56 school shootings, only 10 of the shooters, 18%, were raised in a stable home with both biological parents. 82% grew up in either an unstable family environment or grew up without both biological parents together.
So going back to our episode last week, I know we talked about how a lot of people that commit mass shootings are from I don't know if we mentioned fatherlessness, but a lot of them have mental disability, or they are ex-convicts, which from our statistics on this episode is a lot of that is from the fatherlessness.
I have a article from the Wall Street Journal. It's titled "The biggest root cause of crime is fatherlessness." So I guess I'll just skim it or read it. A decade ago, New York City launched a campaign to combat teen pregnancy. It featured ads on buses and subway cars that read, "If you finish high school, get a job, and get married before having children, you have a 98% chance of not being in poverty." That advice, more popularly known as Success Sequence, is often credited by research done by Brookings Institution scholars. The effort nevertheless faced significant backlash from detractors who accused the then mayor, Michael Bloomberg, of stigmatizing teen pregnancy and pushing a moralistic conservative agenda to revitalize marriage. Oh my goodness! I'm saying that, I don't want people to have fatherlessness. I want you to... Okay, people are backlashing because you shouldn't be a single parent household and they would prefer you be married first. Oh, how controversial. Let me bite my fingernails off. What? I don't even understand that.
Studies show that it's better to have both parents involved in your life. So why would you be arguing against that? Like,
I mean, I just think it's funny. Moralistic, conservative agenda to revitalize marriage. Oh, my bad. Marriage is a thing that we don't like anymore. Like, the fact that our world's coming to this, I know, let's see, what year was this in? Okay, this was in 2023, okay. So this article came out. Let me continue reading.
Yeah, marriage is a commitment that you make with one another, and to say that, no, I mean, we'll just have fun for a little bit, but then I'm not really committed to this. It's like you don't have that, like your spouse is not going to be there for you when times get tough. And normally that's when it's sad to see, but that's when the guy goes, yeah, this sucks. I don't want to be here, and then move. And it's like,
it's going to break down the family.
Right. And I know, like, there's a thing called divorce when you do get married, like, that can happen, but I mean, it's a lot easier to do if you're not married first.
It doesn't mean we're going to endorse it. Well, the thing is, if they're not married and they have a kid, he can leave no matter what.
Right.
If they're married and he has a kid and he leaves, then it's this whole legal battle. So if a guy's going around just popping kids out left and right, it doesn't do anything to him because the woman has to carry it for 9 months. He can go to one lady one night, go to one lady the next. I know, like, they even talk about like sperm donors who they'll donate and they'll have like 300 kids that, well, they've never met, but they still went and produced all these. I mean, I have nothing really against sperm banks, but it's like that's another quote unquote controversial topic to talk about.
Yeah, but there's a lot that goes into that.
But if this guy's living a wild life, he can just go around and he has no responsibility because he's not married. I guess here I'll continue reading. Public moralizing has since fallen out of favor and has been replaced by a kind of self-congratulatory non-judgmentalism. Ooh, big words. In today's New York, you're likely to see ads for free syringes and directions to safe injection sites for junkies, even as drug overdoses have reached record levels.
Safe.
Whole nother topic right there. Drugs, alcohol.
We'll get there eventually.
The state that our country is in is so bad that that we are mad at people for wanting to have people married instead of having homeless families, fatherless families, and we are going to promote drugs and alcohol, even though, or well, not necessarily alcohol, but illegal drugs and people overdosing on drugs. We're going to promote that over, hey, get married and have a stable family.
Just imagine if George Washington saw what our country had become.
I think he's rolling over in his grave right now.
For real.
Multiple times.
As I continue reading here, it says, we could use more of that moralizing from public officials, whether the issue is solo parenting, substance abuse, or crime. High school graduates and children raised by both parents are much less likely to end up in jail. Quote, virtually every major social pathology, end quote. Political scientist Stephen Baskerville writes, it has been linked to fatherless children, violent crime, drug abuse, truancy, unwed pregnancy, suicide, and psychological disorders, all correlating more strongly with fatherlessness than with any other single factor suppressing even race and poverty. America's crime debate tends to focus on so-called root causes such as joblessness, but it's worth it remembering that the sharpest increase in violent crime began in the 1960s, a decade that saw lower employment, strong economic growth, and a doubling back of black household incomes. As notable labor force participation rates of young black men fell in the 1980s and 1990s, one of the longest periods sustained by economic growth in U.S. history. Cities are safer when two-parent families are dominant and more crime-ridden when family instability is common. Nationwide, the total crime rate is 48% higher in cities, quote, that have above the median share of single-parent families compared to cities that have fewer single-parent families. The association between family structure and total crime rates, as well as violent crime rates, in cities across the United States remains statistically significant. I just thought this article was really good because people know what happens. Like, here's another one, I guess. Between 1960 and 2019, the percentage of babies in the U.S. born to unwed mothers grew from 5% to 50%. Shifts away from the late 1960s to the 1990s away from stable families have left some cities, and especially some neighborhoods, vulnerable to higher rates of crime, especially violent crime. The study concludes, quote, we need to realign material and cultural incentives in our cities to favor marriage and stable families, not undercut them. See right here, this article by the Wall Street Journal, who I might not agree with everything on, but right here, I agree. Be married, have a stable family, have a stable income, support your family. Fathers, be there. Women, support your father or support your husbands. Support your family. Like I know there might be mistakes. Okay, so this is a tough debate here that I want to talk about. But teenage pregnancies, these are people. So I'd say probably the girl and the guy are both either it was a fluke thing that they were in the wrong situation and shouldn't have been there. Okay, or they were at a party and something happened, or this guy's going around. Okay.
Yeah, there's tons of different circumstances
It's also
here.
like, yeah, this is like a whole nother discussion, but it's also like their decision too.
But this is what I'm saying though. I do not agree with abortion.
Of course.
No, not at all.
I think next episode we should do a whole thing on abortion. Honestly, teen pregnancy. I do not believe you should abort the baby. Okay, yes, that's a terrible situation that I don't want to deal with. Like that, I would never want to have to deal with like teen pregnancy, like in any situation, like as a
of
father,
course.
as a boyfriend, as anything. I do no, but the abortion, like no, you have to keep the baby. That's a human being that I don't even like.
It's
I don't,
murder
and the
without saying murder.
Yeah, the father has to stay in that situation. Like you can't just leave, especially a teenage girl. You cannot leave a teenage girl without any stability between. Like you have to commit as a man. You have to take that authority upon yourself, and you have to commit to that situation.
And it's same
And
with
raise
the
that-
women too.
and
It's
raise that
both
baby.
man and women that has to like be committed because it's ultimately a decision that you guys made. I mean, not like,
I mean, you might have made it out of terrible
Right.
choice making
but
ability,
it's still your fault. You're gonna suffer the consequences for it. And so like, yeah, it sucks, but still, like, what are the other odds? You want to have another person that's going to be homeless, on drugs, or just doing bad things in general?
Just one of the statistics.
You want to you want to make a person that would be in those statistics?
no. As the father, or as the girl, you need to if it happens, you have to bring up the situation. The guy needs to accept his responsibility as the father of that child, and you have to raise that baby together because otherwise it's just become another one of the statistics. And if she keeps it a secret or gets an abortion, no, you're killing a baby. You can't.
Yeah, the other thing that can be good, it can be bad in situations would be like if you really can't keep the baby, like put it up for
Adoption.
adoption. Like
You have
adoption,
to
don't
carry it
kill it.
out.
Like it's a human being. Don't kill it. Like
And-
it's wrong on so many levels.
Yes, I can see the personal selfish dilemma between keeping a baby or having the baby go full term or yourself going, I can't support this. I can see where you're coming from to be like pro-choice. Hey, this is my body. Okay, whatever. But no, you're killing it. It's murder without responsibility, but you're
Here's
still
what it-
responsible.
here's what it
How many
is.
people regret the abortion that they have? Like a ton. I don't know what the numbers is.
What?
But it's just terrible because but as fathers, so even if it's not teen pregnancy, if you have an accidental pregnancy strike, like if that happens, the father needs to stay in that situation. That's what I'm trying to get at. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, every kid needs a strong father figure. Like so without a father figure, like obviously this can go either way. Your father figure can have a terrible work ethic, but if your father figure has a great work ethic, you are more likely to inherit that work ethic.
I can even attest to that. Like, I mean, I was homeschooled and my dad worked 5 days a week in the truck, but I saw from him, hey, he's supporting my family. He's working every day. Well, I mean, he's working away from home to support his family, who he cares about more than being home with them. He cares about them having a good life, and he cares about being able to support them.
Yeah. And there are so many things that a father does in your family that you really don't realize. Like, they are the foundation of your family. Like,
I actually have, that's actually good though. I have a video by Mark Driscoll. He's a pastor. He in his sermon, I think he talks about how he has all the duties that a father has. So here, I'll just play that real quick.
I'll just share with you the evidence. The census says that there are 18.5 million children growing up without fathers in our nation. We're the most underfathered nation on planet Earth. And it's just weird. Like, oh, there's another school shooting. Well, you know what? He didn't have a dad. You know what? The kid before that didn't have a dad. And the kid before that didn't have a dad. See, they don't tell you the things that they don't want you to know because actually it would activate the men. See, and at the end of the day, it's like we need children to be controlled and raised by the government. And if the men get involved, well, that could ruin everything. So let's not tell them the truth. The truth is that 25% of kids today go to bed without their father in the home. They're under-fathered. 88% of teens with behavioral disorders do not have a dad. 70% of adolescents in drug and alcohol treatment centers do not have a dad. If you do not have a dad, you're 5 times more likely to live in poverty. You need the government. You're 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 90% of homeless and runaway children do not have a dad. In addition, if you don't have a dad and your age is 25 to 29, you're almost twice as likely to be idle. That means no job and no school. You're not doing anything. You're sitting home being over-mothered and under-fathered. If a dad's in the home, he gets up, he's like, what are you doing on my couch? Eating my food, playing video games on my internet. You got to go get your own, right? That's what a dad does. And what I'm telling you is the most significant difference after faith in the Lord Jesus Christ in a child's life is the presence of an engaged father. Statistically, it is incontrovertible. They just don't tell you that because it doesn't fit the narrative where ultimately we need to just raise a generation of dependent adult children who can't activate themselves and take responsibility, who then endure things, and then they're just sort of counseled through all of their trauma, and then they're just raised to vote for people in the government who will continue to overmother them. And the question is, when do we stop the cycle of addiction, dependence, folly, and lack of fathering?
That literally encompasses all of the points that we just made. I mean, and going on where he's talking about the government over mothering, there's been polls because, I mean, it's an election year. There's been so many polls about like looking at, let's say, married women, married men, single women, single men. The only majority that the left side, like the left side of the media, left side of the government has is single women, especially Gen Z. The overwhelming majority in every other one is right-leaning, conservative-minded. A lot of the men these days are waking up to these things and realizing, and they're leaning toward this red pill mindset because of all these red pill influencers that they're seeing these days. And it's a good thing because maybe this will show a boom in future supported families that have an engaged father figure. I mean, I've seen many articles, many videos about talking about men don't want to date anymore because these women, I mean, I'm not going to go into like a men and women's debate, but like it's true in our country, like the split and the divide is so large that men can't find a woman who they want to stay with or be supported with. So if people are just going around sleeping around and having a wild time, I mean, they're not going to want to, they probably don't want to stay with these people if they're not going to believe. And I'm going to say it's not everybody. Okay, I'm not saying this is everybody, but it's a statistic that definitely is true and is happening in our country.
And going back to the video where that pastor jokingly said that, like, what are you doing on and you should just get your own. I feel like that's what a father figure does. And I'm not saying like a mom can't do that, but a dad would just like do it better.
He shows the authority.
Right.
Right. And he's always supportive to tell you to get your own thing. And he'll encourage you to work for yourself. And if it's a godly relationship, to work for God. And you can provide for yourself and for your family, and he doesn't have to provide for you, and he can do other things.
Yeah, you want to have a father who will tell you, hey, you need to grow up, you need to have a work ethic, you need to support yourself because I'm not here to support you forever. That's not why I was put here. I'm here to teach you how to live your life. I'm here to teach you how to support yourself. You just need to take these steps and put them into practice. And hopefully present fathers are doing that in our country.
So I actually want to tell a story, just kind of like what happened in my life. Like we said back, Grace and I have been counselors at camp. And one thing, this was like the first time that I was counseling at camp. And there was a kid in my cabin that didn't have a dad. And he was just wild and crazy and whatever. And it was, it's a kid. So you just, mind your own business or just say, hey, knock it off. But there's been times where we'll say hey, knock it off. And he'll just start moping. And one time we were doing games and things and he'll sit out and he started crying and there was 2 counselors in the cabin. I'll just be counselor number 2 and the other counselor number 1. And counselor number 1 sees it and he is like, hey, I'll talk to him and whatever. And then I see it and I'm like, yeah, I might as well talk to him as well. And well, come to find out that his dad actually died. So yeah, his dad didn't leave him necessarily, but he's still not around.
So,
and yeah.
Or sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but so his father was present and he was a good role model. He just died.
Yeah. He just died. And it obviously
was it medical or was he killed or something?
I don't know. But I know that he died and it definitely impacted him. Yes, his father just didn't up and leave and that wasn't part of the statistics, but it's still something impactful. And I know the speaker of that camp, he had a wife and his wife came over and obviously saw the kid too. And she helped out, trying to talk him through. And I don't know if it was either the dad, it was I think it was some friend, but they said that he died at 38 years old. And then the kid just started bawling and he said, my dad died at 38 years old as well. And yeah, just seeing that, how it impacted the kid, it really it puts some heavy stuff. And I know counselor number 1, during when the week was over and we were doing a debrief when we're talking about the things, counselor number 1 was crying and sobbing because he's I don't know, how old is he? I think he's 20, 22, something like that.
Yeah, college age.
But he was crying and he was crying and sad and overwhelmed because he noticed that kid looked to him as a father figure, and he said, I don't think I'm ready to be that father figure. And it's yes, going back to the statistics, when it's being a counselor or being a mentor, that greatly impacts, but it's not the same.
Yeah, and I mean, I would pray for this kid, and obviously he had a father who was active. I mean, if he's talking about this, he saw something in this other counselor you're talking about that he saw and looked to as, that's someone that I want to look up to. That's someone I want to be. That is someone who knows right from wrong, who knows what they're talking about, who I want to look up to and I believe in. And I don't think you necessarily meant to. I don't know. I'm not gonna speak over you, or for you, but you didn't necessarily mean it as I'm not ready to be a father. It was I can't be that father.
Right? No, it was
that's not the situation. That
no.
Right. I'm hoping that this kid has either his mom finds someone or he finds someone, say at school, in sports, a coach, a friend's parent, someone who can mentor him for the rest of his life, or that his mom finds someone who can be that guy from a loving Christian father for this kid who definitely had an impactful father in his life.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so my family has done foster care recently, and so I'm not going to share too much about the situation because I'm not sure how much I'm supposed to share, but their dad is not going to be able to be there for them ever again. Their mom died but you can they're well, when can I see my dad again? And it's how do you answer that? How are you
say you can't without saying you're not gonna, you can't.
It's they did calls with him, and it's when do I get to call my dad again? And it's how do you say that it's not gonna happen? How do you? Yeah, it's you can
It's
tell
so
that.
sad to see.
Yeah, you can. The need for fathers all around the world is just.
I mean, I don't know how foster students or foster kids are thrown into those statistics, but a kid who has a father figure, so say your dad, can be that mentor, hopefully, for a while to those kids. Those kids might be part of that statistic because they don't have a present father figure necessarily as or a lot of let's say foster care kids or kids in the adoption system don't have a present father figure. And I mean, like, I know the kids that you guys have had through your family, and those kids are so much fun, and you can tell that they loved their dad, and they love your parents too. Like, those kids are good kids who can see character qualities in people that are good character qualities to have.
Yeah, and so one of the kids that we have, when they first came, he didn't talk at all. And, like, ever since his mom passed away, he hadn't talked. And he's one of the most talkative kids you'll ever meet. He can't say a bunch of words. He's really young, but, like, he is, like, insanely talkative now. And part of that is because my dad has been a strong father figure. He's had good role models in his life recently, which have been helpful.
And would you say, growing up with the same dad as him, that you saw being mentored by your dad, or you saw your dad as a father figure, like, wow, that is something that I want to that you wanted to have as well, like a character quality, character traits?
Yeah, that would be just my dad is full of amazing character qualities. Okay, he's an amazing person.
Don't mean to talk him
There's
up
a reason why he's a pastor.
Yeah, he's a really good person, guys.
Do you think that, actually, I guess this is kind of just a question for you. Do you think that having your dad, or your dad being a pastor, helps him better assess situations, like, say, for the foster, like, being a foster parent? I just know. I just wondering what you thought about that.
I think it can. I don't think it's that different from, like, what your dad would go through. I mean, my dad has had my dad had 6 kids before foster care. Now we have quite a few kids in foster care. It's when you have a big family and you're a strong Christian, you kind of pick things up. You don't need to be a pastor to be able to assess the situation any differently.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, that's just really, like, that's just a wholesome story to hear. It's to hear the different, like, from what Dominic said about the dad dying to yours, where they're just never gonna see him again. That's not. Yeah, it's just terrible stuff to hear.
And, like, I just thought of this now, but, like, I can even see myself, like, would I be a Christian if my dad wasn't there? And I thought about it, and I'm like, I honestly don't think I would. My dad actually had a very good impact on me when, like, I'm not going to tell all my testimony, but it was basically like, I just straight up was like, all right, God, if you're there, come say something. And my dad just randomly, like, this was a couple weeks before or after I said this, but my dad came up and he gave a couple of Ken Tolvin series discs, and I was watching a few of them, and I don't know why he grabbed them. He just grabbed them out of his archive of stuff, but he grabbed them and started watching them, and I was watching them with him, and then I was like, hey, actually, can I watch them? And if you don't know what they are, they're like this creation guy that talks about, like, why evolution is wrong and what the creation beliefs are. So, God, in a sense. And I just read them, and I'm like, this is so wild. This is so amazing. And that's just when it hit. And if my dad didn't do that, I still would have been in that cycle.
Yeah. This is this question not necessarily about your dad, but what in those videos, like, actually just made you go, wow?
Well, okay, so this one in particular, I was, like, blown away. So it was about some scientist who, like, hold on. Let me recap. So there was a freakish thing that happened, and it was about a farmer who was growing a corn crop, and he listened to Mozart. And when people asked, like, why are you listening to Mozart? And he's like, because the corn likes to listen to Mozart. And everyone's like, what? You crazy nut job? Turns out the corn stalks grew 9 feet tall.
From the music?
From the music. And the reason being...
Yeah, there's actually studies that if you talk to your plants, they will grow better. I have no idea.
How does
That's
this,
just what I've heard.
How is this like scientifically true? That's insane.
No. Here's why.
Oh, I
and
wanna-
it's
yeah, I wanna hear
because
the rest of this.
Mozart has the same tunes as bird chirpings. So like the same like frequencies as bird chirpings. And that's why bird chirps in the morning, because the frequencies that bird chirps and evidently Mozart will open the stomata of a plant underneath the plant leaf, and will when the stomata is open, the plant can breathe much better. And it's stuff like this. It's like, what?
That's crazy.
I mean, I can't. It's like I can't. I don't necessarily go, or I'm not gonna be like, there's no way that's true. But I just go, there's no way that's true. But I believe you.
No, and this is a one of them too. Is they wanted, so there's a whole conspiracy theory in the creation side of things where so when the flood happened, they said that the deep broke open, so waters came from underneath the earth, and then the waters poured down as rain, for flood from the heavens. And there's conspiracy theories that there was actually moisture or water that was around the ozone that would filter out the radiation between the sun and the earth, making plant lives grow better and things like that. And so scientists was like, I want to see this theory. And so what they did is they made this huge greenhouse. And they tried to they regulated what gases went in. They regulated what sunlight came in and things like that. And what they did is they had a cherry tomato plant in this building, and they just watered it, and tried to make sure the conditions were absolutely perfect. Well, this cherry tomato plant, I'm telling you guys, was a tomato tree. Like, I'm telling you, it was huge. And the tomatoes that came off of it was absolutely ridiculous. Ken Tolvin, the guy that was talking, he said the cherry tomatoes were coming out of it was like baseball size.
Cherry tomatoes.
That's
you mean
insane.
the things that are as big as my pinky finger?
Yeah, and it's things like that I go, no way. And I think about it, and I'm like, if this is true, then this is all amazing things. And it just hit me of like, God's here. Like, I don't know how, I don't know why, but it's like, this is such an amazing thing. And I got to saw that because my dad, again, went into the archives of his things, brought something from his past, because he struggled with the same thing as I did. And he brought it up, started watching them. I did too. And it was, if he didn't bring back what he had in his past, I would have never even questioned.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, okay, like I feel that's a pretty good spot to wrap up. But like, I mean, we all, I feel, can empathize or relate to having a father figure who was a Christian role model. And that would just be my advice to anyone listening here is that if you're a guy, if you're a father, be a role model to your kids. Like, your kids need a Christian or a present father role model to look up to. They need a mentor in their lives who can teach them right from wrong and can teach them in which way to look. And as mothers, support the father. I mean, as a family, like, you're a family unit, like, raise your family together. But be there. Be present in your child's lives, because that is the most impactful thing that can ever happen to them.